Hey, Frankie, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing excellent. This is so cool to be talking to you today. You're so new to NXT. You've just arrived in the last couple of months. How has your time been at NXT so far been for you?
It's been honestly amazing. It's just been such a surreal moment for me after so many years of working so hard with this dream and finally getting there. And everyone's been so welcoming and just, I feel like I'm growing immensely as a person, as an athlete, and creatively as a performer as well.
And you mentioned that word surreal right there. You've only been here for a couple of months. Has it stopped being surreal for you yet, or is it still feeling surreal even to this day?
I still think it feels surreal. I don't know. I've just worked, like I said, so hard to get here. And so I still have moments of like pinch me moments, but I'm just taking everything in stride and just kind of trying to prove what I came here to do, which is win championships and create my own legacy and write my own chapter within the history of the WWE.
Absolutely. How happy were you with that initial debut on the show? It was perfect timing too. It was the first Tuesday right after WrestleMania weekend, the first NXT show on a Tuesday night. The timing couldn't have been any better with you confronting the new NXT Women's Champion Raquel Gonzalez. You wrestled a couple of weeks after that with your world premiere. What were your thoughts on the initial debut as well as your first match on the show?
I think everything went as well as I knew they would go. Like I just really give it my all every single time. And with that, confronting the NXT Women's Champion and Raquel Gonzalez, her presence, her style, her aura is so intense, and I just fed off of that, and I just really enjoy it, and I can't wait to be, in a ring with her again. And as far as my, in-ring debut, I think it went fabulously, of course. And I just really can't wait for everyone to see what I'm all about and to show the world, what has taken me 11, 12 years to get to the WWE for. And to show them my different style, to show them that I'm not just a cute blonde with a poofy jacket and a small dog, but I'm a total badass who has done this and, for so long, wrestled in all these different countries all over the world under the tutelage of many different iconic teachers and maestros in Mexico and Canada and Japan. And, this is my time to shine, and I'm ready to take it on and to prove why I belong.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people would say you've been one of the best, not even just women's wrestlers, but one of the best performers, period, out there in the world for the last number of years now, getting experience everywhere you've been, like you said, all across the world. I asked LA Net the same question last week when we spoke, but I guess the easy answer would be yes, but with right now, I think if you showed up 5 years ago in NXT, you would have been successful, it would have been a big deal, it would have been very cool for fans to see you in NXT. But I think in these last 5 years, you've become even a bigger star, even better than you were at that point. Now it's got to be like the best time to have arrived in WWE, right? As opposed to maybe 4 or 5 years ago, in your opinion?
I feel like everything happens for a reason. I know that's such a normal answer to say.
No, I completely agree.
And so all these kind of different experiences and the fact that I've been able to be in the ring with such a variety of talent. If you look across the board from AAA to Lucha Underground and Impact and now in WWE, I've faced men and women from all over the place and been taught by people from all over the place. So this was the perfect storm of, 11, 12 years of work and finally getting here. And I know that I am the most confident I've ever been in myself, not only as a professional, sports entertainer, but also as a human. And I feel confident in myself. I'm at peace with who I am. And I know what I bring to the table. And I think that that's what makes this absolutely perfect timing for me.
And even just with the one match that you've had so far in NXT, just when you make your entrance alone, I think people, just the immediate word that comes to mind when they see you make your entrance is star. And that's not just been the case in NXT, that's been the case for a while now, like you said, in all the promotions that you've worked for. Was there any one turning point for you that you can think of where you thought, okay, I've really found my footing here with what I'm going for, obviously Taya Valkyrie, Franky Monet, whatever it might be, where you really started to feel like things started to click? Or was it more of a really slow, gradual process for you?
I think it was a gradual process, but with kind of little iconic moments, I should say, probably. I feel like at first I was very insecure and just not sure of myself because I just didn't really feel like I knew where I belonged with professional wrestling. I don't come from a wrestling family. I didn't really have a lot of friends in wrestling. This was just this crazy dream that I just wanted to accomplish. So when I went to Mexico, there was a lot of insecure moments for me, for sure. But I feel like it was, finding peace with my personal life, finding peace within myself, and just kind of growing and maturing, into what I'm doing. And I think it was probably about 2 years ago when I started being oh no, I know what I'm doing, and it's like, we always question ourselves. No matter how good you are, no matter what, there's always pressure put on you that's you putting it on yourself. And I think I did a lot of that. And I think that the growth that I've experienced in those last 2 years has, is very noticeable. And I'm just ready to grow even farther within the WWE and at WWE NXT.
100%. I mean, like you said, you look at the development from, I think, Lucha Underground to then Impact to then NXT. It's just a gradual building process of more of a star in Impact than you were in Lucha, and then more of a star in NXT than you were in Impact. It's cool to see the development in that, growth over the last couple of years alone. And another thing I asked LA last week when we spoke was that when you come to NXT, with the people that are there now, some of these people you worked with in the past, male, female, Mackenzie Mitchell being one of them, Cameron Grimes, LA being another from the last couple of years. So in coming to NXT, is it like a first day of school type vibe, or is it more of a reunion with some of the people that you've seen backstage that you've worked with previously?
It was I think a little bit of both, because I felt super happy that I actually had friends there. You are basically the new kid in school.
Yeah.
So I definitely felt that a little bit, and kind of just like, oh, these people don't know who I am. There's always going to be kind of that in like uncomfortable time. But with that said, I had, Mackenzie and LA Knight and Cameron Grimes and Swerve and all these other people that like I have crossed paths with, even if it be for a second, along my way to this point. So everyone made me feel welcome. A lot of people are also friends with my friends or different things like that. So it was really cool. And there's just so many people, so many women in NXT and in the WWE and SmackDown and Raw that I've never faced before. So it's just an exciting time to be the new kid. There's so many different dream matches and so many different first time matches that I can have. And I'm just excited to get it going and prove, that I belong here.
Yeah, infinite possibilities, not just in NXT, but across every brand in WWE currently. And just going back a couple of years ago, you mentioned how you kind of started to find the last 2 years alone really hitting your stride and whatnot. It was around that time that John Morrison, your husband, obviously leaving Impact to come back to WWE late 2019, early 2020. It had to, obviously WWE, as you've said before, was always the end game for you. It had to have been a thought in your mind at that point, okay, if he's going back, there's a good chance I may be going back, not because of him, but like if he's going back, the stars might be aligning for me at some point in the not too distant future. So basically my question is, was it always for you more a matter of when than if you would be back in WWE?
It's
hard to say.
Like, I feel like I always knew that this was where I wanted to be, always. And I mean, from the beginning, since the first day of wrestling school, like, this is where you want to be, this is the most amazing company, and has so many, the talent pool is just absolutely insane, and there's so many great opportunities for to learn and to grow as a performer. And so I always knew this was when I wanted to be. Did I question the fact that maybe at some point I was like, maybe this isn't going to happen? Absolutely. There goes the insecurity again. But I feel like that's part of it. Like, we always, I care so much about professional wrestling. Like, I care so much about being the best and showing the world what I have. And I just knew that I had to just believe in myself. I bet on myself. And I was like, you know what? If it doesn't happen, then it's not my time, or this is just not my destiny. And I kind of just left it up to that. But I knew that I was going to try my darndest and my hardest to make this dream come true. And, when John left and went back to the WWE, I was, for the first time in like 3 years, I didn't have him as like the support system there. But it also allowed me a time to have personal growth in myself, and I think I proved that with my, the longest reigning Knockouts Championship run in history that, happened after that departure. But that was, maybe that's what I needed to kind of just like spark that fire that I've always had, and really just be like, you know what, the option of failure doesn't exist. I've always kind of said that. Like, I remember when I moved to Mexico with like $100 in my pocket, like I was like, I can't go home. That's not what this is about. This is about making my dream come true. And I just think that failure for me is never an option. And so even though I questioned it, even though I was like, this is a long shot, and like the pandemic and all these other kind of like things going on in the world, it ultimately worked out. And I bet on myself, and it worked. And I think that people forget that, you should be your biggest inspiration, your biggest motivation, and what you bring to the table, and never, ever forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, everything happens for a reason. So I think it just kind of worked out perfectly that it did, with everything kind of falling into place as they did. And you've talked before about, going from Ty Valkyrie to Franky Monet, your thoughts on the name change, you being, the reason why it is Franky Monet, how it kind of came to be. What were your thoughts and fans' reaction to it? Because it felt like it was a big deal for a day and then people just kind of moved on from it. Like, whether they like it or not, people just kind of forget after a day or so, So when you see that, there's positive feedback, there's negative feedback. It is what it is. People just kind of forget about it and then you just kind of accept it. Like, we have someone on the roster named Dolph Ziggler. You know what I mean? Like, it can't get much crazier than that. So what were your thoughts and fans' feedback for the name change?
I kind of expected it. Like, I knew that, I've been Ty Valkyrie for over a decade. So, and when people like get mad about anything, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
Love to be mad. They love to be mad. So I expected it. But I also was, I was prepared to say, like, hey, if you are my fan, you're going to support me no matter what my name is, right? Like, it's supporting the sports entertainer, the professional wrestler, the person, not the name. The name is just a different rebirth of who I have been. And I feel like it's natural for throughout your career to change your gear or change your hair, or in some cases when you change companies, change your name. And this was just one other little step in me becoming Franky Monet. And I love my name. I don't care if people don't like it. I think it's unique. I sound like a pop star. Like, I'm just going to live my best life and prove to the world that Franky Monet, is the top of her game,
Absolutely. And you're not alone either. You got Prince Presley by your side, and it's great to see your dog on the show as well, which is great. You had the fake dog in Impact, but now we're actually getting Prince Presley for real in NXT. Was that your decision? Did you have to clear that with anyone? Like, how did that kind of come to be?
I don't really remember exactly how it came up, but I think it was just kind of like an idea that people had since creative had, because I literally post about my dogs 24 hours a day. Anyone who follows me on social media knows that Bowie and Presley are very present on my Twitter and Instagram. And like, it was just a kind of an idea, and it ended up working out. And I was so proud of Presley for those first vignettes. I mean, Presley's been on more episodes of NXT than me.
That's true. Yeah.
But he did so good. I was so proud of him. He was very well behaved. Presley's actually been in a few movies before. He was actually in Speed of Time last year, the short action film with John Morrison and Dolph Ziggler, of all people. He's done a few things, and he would walk to the ring with me at Indies. So he's never been really scared of noise or people or anything. And so he's been doing a great job, and he's been getting paid in treats when he gets home.
Oh, perfect. I'm sure he loves that. And I know when I spoke to Johnny Gargano last year, he wanted to bring his and Candice's dog onto the show at some point. We haven't exactly seen them on NXT yet. Their dog, I think it's Padme, I believe is the name of their dog.
Padme.
Yeah, Padme. Have you gotten any pushback from the Garganos yet that you've gotten Prince Presley on TV within a day and it's still taking them a few years?
I mean, there's been some comments, but it's all in fun. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, I'd love to see Padme and Presley as a tag team. So let's make it happen.
It's got to happen. That, and also the, Io Shirai is a big cat person too. So once that match happens, maybe
that was the controversy of the day. That cat people versus dog people. I loved it.
Exactly, and it seems to be just the basis for a feud alone. Aside from the fact it's two of the best in NXT right now, in yourself and Io Shirai, but you can add in the cat and dog too, just to make it more interesting. Another level. Exactly. So just a couple days ago, I actually went to go see that movie Cruella. The Disney movie came out in theaters. It's also on Disney Plus, whatever. And just watching the movie, your character gives me such similarities to that Cruella character. Now, I know you've inspired, some of your gear after that character in the past elsewhere. Was that ever a thought for you? Because it feels like there's great similarities between Franky Monet and Cruella de Vil.
Well, I've been a fan of Disney movies forever. I love a good villain. Like, who doesn't? I mean, I've been a heel for 99.9% of my career. Without a good villain, like, that's what makes a good babyface. You need that villain. People love to hate someone. Yep. So I thrive on that. And obviously I take inspiration from so many villains throughout history. Cruella has been one of them 100%. When I watched the movie, John was with me and he's just like, oh my gosh, this is you.
Yeah.
So I take that as a compliment. Thank you. She was wonderful. I thought the movie was fantastic. The fashion, I just want to wear all the clothes. Yeah. So yes, I definitely think that I can take that. That's good.
What's your favorite Disney movie off the top of your head?
My favorites would have to be Lion King and The Little Mermaids.
Okay. Did you like the Lion King remake they made a couple years ago?
I thought it was okay. Mm-hmm. I'm stuck in my ways that I just really love, 90s Lion King with Jonathan Taylor Thomas as Simba.
Yeah. It's a classic movie. You can't ever beat the original, but for what it was, I thought it was still a good movie, and they're still making...
I thought it was great, too. Yeah. It's the same way as I felt about the redo of Aladdin and all that stuff. Now they've been redoing and doing live action for all those films. And I think some of them are like hit the nail on the head, and some I'm just kind of like, oh, they're okay.
Yeah.
But it's also because I fell so in love with like the original that it's hard to kind of see it be redone, I should say.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, I thought the Beauty and the Beast one was actually pretty well done. They did about 4 or 5 years ago. I thought that was a good one, but like now they're remaking Lilo and Stitch as a live action movie. I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna work with it just being an alien. And I'm a big Stitch fan, so I'm not sure how to feel about that. But I thought,
and that's the thing. It's either as like a diehard fan, it's like either you're gonna love it or you're gonna be like, absolutely no.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see. I have faith that they'll do right by it. Last couple of questions for you, Franky. You mentioned, obviously, John earlier. Has he given you any advice on your run so far, your appearances? Like, oh, maybe you could do this, or I thought that was great. Any feedback, advice from him so far?
Obviously, we both talk to each other about every show that we're on, and like, did you watch Raw? What did you think about this? Like, we talk back and forth about our character ideas and ideas that we have for the future and all the time. And so he obviously gives me tons of advice, but he also has a lot of faith in me and knows that I'm very confident in what I'm doing and who I am as a professional wrestler and sports entertainer. So we just kind of are there to support each other. He was backstage for my debut. I'm sure he will be backstage tomorrow for the encore performance. He's just been my number one cheerleader, and I'm just so thankful to have him there to kind of, when I have questions about how it is in the WWE or how I should react to something or how I should treat something, he's always there to kind of give me advice on how it is and how different it is. And he's just been there he's there for the journey,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. And it's super cool to see that support. And you mentioned your encore performance tomorrow night on NXT. Your finisher previously elsewhere was called the Road to Valhalla. It's still the same move in NXT. Does it have the same name or is it a different name now?
Well, you're going to have to wait and see.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see, yes. Yep. There's so many things in the works right now. Okay. You'll all have to tune in tomorrow for the encore of my world premiere at 8/7 Central on the USA Network. Brand new episode of NXT. You do not want to miss it. Me and Presley will be there along with all the other superstars and the arriving Diamond Mine, Adam Cole versus an opponent of choice, Kushida versus Kyle O'Reilly for in a non-title match, and much more.
Yeah, it's going to be a great episode. A lot of people looking forward to it. Your match tomorrow, even just looking ahead, obviously you get this question a lot, but opponents you want to work with at some point, not just on the active roster, but Beth Phoenix has got to be among them. You guys have a similar finisher. That's got to be a match you're looking forward to having at some point, right? If possible.
Well, 100%. I have been a fan of Beth's forever. She's just such an inspiration for me as a professional wrestler within the business and, in WWE. If she wants to put those boots on again, I'd love to face her. And obviously there's people like, when I started pro wrestling, I wanted to be Trish Stratus. I wanted to be Lita. I wanted, all these people. And as far as like the current roster, I know that I can tear it up with Raquel Gonzalez. Facing Io again, we faced once about 5 years ago in Stardom.
Okay.
So facing each other again, I think on this grand stage that is NXT would be fantastic. And the entire women's roster across the board and every brand is fantastic. And there's just so many opportunities for never before seen matches with me. And I look forward to facing all of them.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, infinite possibilities, so many matches to be had, including tomorrow, as you mentioned, on NXT, USA Network, 8/7 Central, along with everything else you mentioned a minute ago with On Tap for tomorrow's NXT, which is shaping up to be a great show. Well, Franky, this has been awesome. Thanks so much for the time. I appreciate it. And congrats on all the success and also going forward as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Franky. Have a great day.
You too.